Welcome to my podcast, The Melancholy Guy Talks. And right now, I'm talking about recovery, living with addiction. In this podcast, I'm sharing my journey through life while being an open, polyamorous, African American male living in recovery. I am the Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today, I definitely believe that change I must or die I will. To learn more about the Melancholy Guy, go to Instagram and click the link in the bio. Also, with a donation of just $1, you can have access to my first series on ethical non-monogamy, the fun stuff that started my podcast journey. See my Patreon page for more info, links in the show notes, and the Instagram bio. So let's talk. Today's date is 5/10/2020, and it's been 113 days since I felt the need to pick up my drug of choice. Today's episode is Family and Recovery, a work in progress, episode 58. The weekly check-in, this show will consist of 3 segments. The weekly check-in, the discussion topic, and the Ask An Addict question of the week. This is the format that I experienced the many times I was in intensive outpatient treatment, so it seems appropriate now as this show is truly an integral part of my recovery process. Welcome or welcome back. Come on in, sit down, have a seat, and let us get started on this session. So let's begin with the check-in and let's talk about the week. This week has been another great week. Moving on the job, doing what I need to do, showing up every day and just enjoying it. Really enjoying being on the job, being sober and being clean and not having the normal issues that I would have had I been an active addict. It has been completely different. I must say, I've been working a long time, and this has been quite a process. Just being present and being in the now at work every day, and I must say, I really enjoy where I'm at and just being at work every day. So with that, the move is going well. It's definitely going to happen at the end of the month. Everything is slowly but moving in the right direction. I'm signing my lease next week. Again, I'm excited about that. Everything's pretty much packed up, and trucks are rented and on hold. Movers are coming, and this is going to happen. And furniture is being purchased. It's just a time of transition. And again, it's good to be where I am now, actually experiencing it and not just sort of coasting through it or having issues. And I owe that to recovery at this point. Now, I must say, I will talk about some other things in the past, but like I said in the previous episodes, that recovery for me is like being in a storm, and I go through periods of rough seas, and then I hit periods of hit the eye of the storm and everything's clear and waiting to go right back into the storm. And just this weekend I had a storm. Just wanted to check in and tell you about that. Just a brief moment that had I not been in recovery, I would have just thrown it all away. Just a brief misunderstanding with Kimberly, my ankle partner, over the weekend, and in my head, had I not been in recovery and had the tools to work on myself, because nobody is responsible for how, right now I know specifically that no one is responsible for how I feel but me. No one is doing anything to me. No one is causing me to do anything dumb except me. And just a little, I can't even say it was an incident, because this morning when I talked to her about it, she was oblivious. She was totally oblivious to it. And luckily, well, not luckily, but she's been working very hard, completing her some classes she's been taking for another advanced degree, and she's very tired, and we were having a discussion. And when someone's tired, they're in and out of it, and she took some sleep aids and was trying to really rest. And she was having a conversation with me, and I was, was taking care of her all day, doing everything I need to do to be a supportive partner. And it just hit that she had said something about to me about um, something that happened during the week, and I just took it the wrong way. I took it the wrong way, and I said something about, well, I know you're tired, blah blah. I know you're out of it right now. And then she took that away and just said something, and I just went ballistic. I just got into my feelings, thought she had an attitude, and things like that. And it was totally on me because the next day she didn't understand what I was talking about, and I just went silent, cold, and hard. And in my head, I'm thinking that I can't live like this. I can't, this is we getting ready to move together. This is how it's gonna be. All this stuff, right? I'm thinking about doing things that would be detrimental to my recovery and to our future, just like that. And normally, if I had not been in recovery, you know what I'm saying? This is exactly the things that my addiction looks for to take over. You know what I mean? Like if I had not been um, doing the work that I've been doing, and then was able to just like, wait a minute, stop, don't do anything, and just wait. Normally, in my old mood and how I used to be, I have a habit of going from 0 to 100, and I want to went from 0 to 100 and just blowing it out of proportion, just to get control of things that I need to get back into my addiction, thinking that I'm doing things that I need to do to just take care of my life and do the right thing. Nobody's gonna do anything to me. How dare you talk to me like that and all this kind of stuff. And this thing, I'm off track. Back out in the street, jobless again because of something that I just did in my head. So it just goes to show you that it's an everyday thing for me, and like one day could be great, and if I'm not on it, like on it, the next day could be a disaster. So it was just good to go through that, and those kind of incidents actually bind us closer together, Kim and I, because we talk about it. You know what I'm saying? We talk it out, and that's like one thing for me now is I can't let things like that go. Right? I have to talk it out. To me, I say it's an elephant in the room. I have to address. If I feel any type of animosity towards you, and I have to have a relationship with you, let's say it be on the job or in family, and today I'm talking about family. If I feel that there's animosity towards us, I myself personally, I can't let it go. I have to talk it out, and I have to talk it out in a constructive way. And if we are unable to talk it out in a constructive way, I gotta let it go. The relationship, okay? Because I cannot let anything, and that's just where I'm at now today. You know what I'm saying? Be it wrong or right, this is just for me. My recovery must come first. And if I'm dealing with someone who is unable to carry on a decent conversation and own actions and be able to talk about it, I have to cut the relationship out because it could put me in a bad place. So I'm just grateful to be there. It just shows like I'm growing. I feel the growth, and I'm grateful for that growth. So that's gonna leave it for the check-in right there. Getting ready for another week, Sunday night, and hopefully, well, prayerfully, hopefully, I'll be sitting here again next week, with more good news. So we're gonna go ahead and go into the this week's topic, and it's a so so how do I come up with topics? Let me talk about that for a second. How do I come up with topics, right? Um, the way that I come up with topics is I basically sit down and think about where I am, right? Where I am in my recovery, what's affecting me most. I also look at, I'm a member of a few Facebook groups that talk deal recovery, meetings. I kind of like get a vibe of where I am and what I feel that I need to talk about and research and work out myself. And the reason I chose this topic to look at is that I think this has been a very big stumbling block for me. We're going to talk about family and recovery. And first of all, I always say that my disclaimer: I am not an expert in recovery, addiction treatment specialist at all. I am a recovering addict with 113 days clean, sober, and a lot of years of use. And I don't. Only thing I'm giving you is my experience, strength, and hope. That's it. From where I see it. Um, don't take anything I say and run with it at all because I do not have any expertise in these things. All I have is a lot of experience of living this shit. So of course, I have something I want to read first. I looked it up on the internet, and family's a big deal because basically, I don't know if you've ever heard it before, but they say family addiction is a family disease. Basically, um, if one member gets in an addiction, it affects the entire immediate family, and a little probably beyond that because you're dealing with someone who's sick and you're dealing with someone who cannot, who's going to be doing damage to themselves, and then doing damage to the family, breaking trust, financially ruining, and then how the family reacts to that can get very dysfunctional. Because we have this thing called love. We want to, help the person. We don't know how to help the person. They lie. They steal, they cheat, they're going down the drain. You see the damage they're doing to themselves on a daily basis, and you don't know what to do to stop it. So I'm going to read from something I found on the internet from some addiction center. But basically, the role family plays in active addiction. And of course, we're always talking about active addiction. That's the damaging part. What I'm talking about in recovery. Recovery is something that's great. So anyway, someone's active addiction. A family impacted by substance abuse inevitably develops into a dysfunctional system. There's no way to sugarcoat that, right? Um, and this is a hard subject for me to talk about because I basically am in a family that's dealing with addiction, and not just I'm not the only family member, and it's a very um, difficult environment for me to be in now that I'm in recovery. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really the reason why I'm leaving now. I set an intention to leave, and the opportunity presented itself that I'm leaving now. But I definitely, when I decided to go into recovery, the reason I set the intention that I have to leave at this point is because, um, as I move towards recovery on a day-to-day basis, I'm the only one. You know what I'm saying? It's like not no one else in the family or in the environment is also seeking recovery. And if you think that, and here's the point that I'm trying to make in this whole talk today is that if, and I've been married twice and divorced twice and things like that. If you think that you've been dealing with an addict for a number of years, months, years, whatever, and think you haven't been affected, you're lost. You know what I'm saying? You lose because it's impossible to not be affected. It's impossible to not develop. And I'm gonna talk about another codependency traits or issues, because you're dealing with someone on a daily day basis that lies. That lies. You're dealing with someone on a day to day basis that you love that's hurting themselves. You are going to compensate or develop all type of things to deal with that. And the point is, when that person starts recovering and that person is changing, if you aren't changing too, how can the relationship change for the better? That's how I see it. And I'm gonna read on. In this system, members unknowingly take on roles in order to cope within the unhealthy system. These roles have been named many things, and this is a version of what they and how they play out. You have the savior or the hero. The savior is a shining star, someone who basically is going to save the family, always keeping up a good appearance for the family. You're gonna have the mascot, the comic relief, somebody who makes jokes of it. You have the scapegoat, the person who feels as if all of this is their fault. everything that's bad is their fault. It's not the addict's fault. It's not this, that, this. It's their fault that this situation is the way it is. Um, and it's no one's fault though. That's the thing. That's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about addiction, right? It's no one's fault. It's you know what I'm saying. It's not even the addict's fault, right? That they're an addict. It's just in the condition. If someone gets cancer, maybe they smoke cigarettes, you may blame them for that, but they call it cancer. Or they felt, though you got a brain tumor, you don't blame them for it. You just say, okay, we got to deal with that, right? The same thing, we got to deal with that. But the way you deal with it, you can't do it um, on a whim. You can't pray it away or anything. You have to come at it with proven techniques, right? So you have to get help. Not only you. One thing. Okay, let me go. Okay, and then we got the last role, and that is the enabler, rescuer, caregiver. And that is the enabler insulates the addict, the addicted individual, by excusing their behaviors. They are unwilling or unable to hold the individual accountable for their actions. They smooth things over and run interference to keep the addict from experiencing the logical consequences of their poor behavior, hitting rock bottom. That's the inevitable consequence of drug addiction, hitting rock bottom, jail's institutional death. This behavior often springs from their desire to avoid shame and embarrassment. They will often stunt the addict's ability to recover if they don't change their patterns. An addict must feel the consequences of their addiction, right? Of their I'm not gonna say choices, but of their addiction. They must feel the rock bottom. You must hit your head on the wall to the point where I don't, you know what I'm saying? To the point where you start to feel that shit. You know what I'm saying? Until the point that you say, this hurts. I gotta stop. And one thing about me, I could say like my relationships that I've had over the years with, girlfriends, wives, things like that, I always would drag them into my addiction. Sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. Knowingly, unknowingly to them. Also, I would say that for me, I was always hoping that I would figure it out. You know, and I wasn't trying to use anyone to just hold my money so I could just keep doing drugs. I was trying to be happy. I just didn't understand what that meant for me to be happy. And then the relationship took this turn, a term that I know, like the back of my hand, which is codependency. The relationships turns codependent, and codependency is a behavioral condition in a relationship where one person enables another person's addiction, poor mental health, immaturity, irresponsibility, or underachievement. Among the characteristics of codependency is an excessive reliance on other people for approval and a sense of identity. Okay, so in relationships, you have to have. To me, this reads to me like in a relationship, everyone has to have boundaries, right? A healthy person, to me, this is me. It took me a long time to understand this. My ex-wife used to ask me like, what would I do if I knew somebody if I dated someone who was addicted to drugs and got married, what would I do? And I would say I don't know because I never dealt with that. If you ask me today, I would leave immediately. Not laughing, but I would leave immediately. First of all, I wouldn't get involved. I would have. This is not an active act. This is not an active recovery. Because I know that a person in recovery is a person that's working a program, and if they slip and have a relapse, that's something that we have to deal with. How they get back on track. That's something we have to watch and talk about. But then I have to set the boundary. If this happens again, I have to go. Right? That's healthy. That's not because I don't love you. I can love you from afar, but because I know that if this continues, I'm helping you destroy yourself. right? I'm helping you not see what you need to do for yourself, right? And that's the important thing to learn when you're dealing with an addict. So it's like at this point, I don't know where my at this point I could say I wrote down notes about what I wanted to say about this, but at this point I have issues with everyone in my family, immediate or extended. I either don't have a relationship or a relationship with them is very hard, and or I'm just indifferent, and that's because of my use, and never having to talk about it, and at this point, I just realized over the weekend that it's a trigger for me. It's a trigger for me to be, like I said before, it's a trigger for me to be around anyone that I can't talk about a real issue with, that I either have with you or you have with me, and we can't talk it out and come to some kind of conclusion. And I mean, a real conversation, not a bullshit conversation, a real conversation. And I don't think I'm able to at this point with my family. I don't know why that is, but it is that way. Basically, I think the only two people in my family that I have a relationship with now that I can actually talk to is my oldest daughter and my mother. Um, Bless her. Happy Mother's Day. Bless her heart. But other than that, um, there's I have to, and like I said, it's not one of the reasons why I'm moving at this point. I was moving anyway, but I'm just, I need this time to not be triggered. You know what I'm saying? I need to work on and not be triggered. The triggers are out there. You know what I'm saying? Like I was triggered. I don't know. I was triggered last night. But I put myself in a situation, or I got in a situation that I could work myself out because I was with someone who I could definitely trust, who I knew that, once she got a good night's sleep and wake up in the morning, her whole attitude was cheery, rosy, and we had to talk it out. Like I said, you know what? Can we talk about what happened last night? And she was able to talk about it, and we were able to, you know, not even work it out, just understand what was going on. And I'm like, oh, I should just left you alone and gave you more space, basically. And she was like, no, you took great care of me. But I'm like, but I said for me, I should have just left you alone and gave you more space, right? And I don't have that with my family now, and I think that's because of the work. And like I said, we as black people, they always say we as black people don't get help. You know what I'm saying? We always think that other people. Well, I've always been told by my family that I need to go get help, and I'm saying, fine, that's great. I'm gonna go get help. But like I've told other people in other relationships that I think if I go get help, I'm gonna leave you. And that's been true 100% because I look back at my relationships and there's not really many I want to go back to or ever revisit. I don't really care. Not because of them, but because of just the toxicity and the codependency of those relationships that just developed. I don't think that healthy people enter into codependent relationships. And if you enter a relationship and remain in a relationship with an addict, you're definitely suffering from the codependency. Um, and so that's where I'm at. And I think a lot of that, the power of that, fixing those type of relationships comes from working the steps, and that comes working time. 4 steps, making amends, and all that kind of stuff. But that's over time. You know what I'm saying? Like me being 113 days, that's nowhere near enough time for me to be able to approach or broach these issues. And I also think for them, because they have a trust issue, 113 days is nothing. That's nothing to them. It's nothing to me. It's nothing to the grand scheme of things for the number of years that I suffered from my addiction, right? So first of all, trust isn't there, and so in some ways, probably respect isn't there. So I have to just wait it out, and then see what happens. But for me now, I know that I have to separate myself to continue on the path that I'm on, and then we'll see. Like I said, family is love and all that, but um, recovery must come first. And that's one thing an addict must understand, that recovery must come first. And once that comes in your head, you have to look at every relationship, kind of objectively, and say, is this a trigger for now? And that's basically that. And I'm gonna leave that there. And that's just another thing to pray and meditate on. So I'm gonna go into the next segment, and we're gonna do the Ask an Addict. I do have a question. I don't have a question. I didn't get a question DM to me. So if you want to ask an addict a question, I didn't post. I usually do a post on Saturday nights, asking if are there any questions. Anybody wants to ask an addict a question. Maybe you know someone that's an addict, or you're an addict yourself, or you may think you're an addict, or you just want to know about addiction. You can ask an addict. DM me, and I will answer the question on the show, or I will answer the question to you directly, whichever you prefer. Discretion is, of course, it will be answered discreetly. So anyway, so I didn't have a question, so I went and found a question in one of my Facebook groups. I don't know. I'm not telling anybody what group. It's all random and hidden and closed and secret and all that. But I just thought I would answer the question that we get asked in the group from either other addicts or family members of addicts. So the question is, I have a question, if that's okay. I understand one day at a time. However, I struggle to relate to posts that mention finding God, as I am not religious. I believe in a higher power, just not sure what that is yet. Okay, so we already know one day at a time. Basically, one day at a time is just the way I stay clean. I stay clean one day at a time, right? 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time. I do what I did yesterday to stay clean today, right? Nothing changes. I handle what's in front of me, and I do the next right thing, right? Those are the things I do. And then you also, when I don't understand something, I rely on my higher power, right? I'm a spiritual agnostic, right? I used to be religious. I used to be what's called a Christian. I left that religion, and I was an atheist for a while. But now I'm a spiritual agnostic. I do not know, but I believe in that we're spiritually connected, right? And I believe that spiritual connection is my higher power. I believe in the power of love, and that's what connects us, and that's my higher power. Now, for me, that's how I'm working my program at this point. That's what I turn to. I call it the universe. That's what I turn to. And so that's how I was able to relate into the program. When I don't understand something, I know what's going on, I just say, well, I just have to let it go. Everything's working out. It's working out that's how the universe wants it to work out. It's all for my greater good and the greater good of all of us, that is working out for me the way that it's working out. So that's basically how it works for me. Now, it took me a long time to get there. It took me a long time to figure out what the high power. Even as a Christian, it took me a long time to get to the point where I believe that I'm bad with steps. In the third step, it's a third step. Believe it in a higher power can help me with this, because I turn everything over to God. I don't turn everything over to my higher power, right? That's not what I do. I believe that things are working out as they should, right? And whatever it is, people always say like, "Well, I hope things work out," and I say they always do. They always work out as they should, and I believe that too. Whether it be from whether it be good or bad, or whatever you think is good or bad, because you basically give whatever it is. It just is. To me, it just is. I having this conversation with Kimberly this morning. I believe things. I'm pragmatic, right? I just believe things are. All right, be they bad or good. Whether you say I'm just saying something, whether you say, oh, that's terrible. Why are you so negative? It's not negative to me. It just is, right? So it's like. When things work out, it's just that's the universe working things out, and it's just how things are, and that's how it works for me. So I can't turn anything over to a higher power because it is already being worked out as it should, and that's how I function, and that's what I believe. And believe me, I don't. Everything is a belief, so I'm not gonna go into that. All right, so for this person, what I would say to this person is like, look, you have to, it's not about finding a God, and that's another thing I have a problem with in A and AA. A lot of people like to say, well, I found my God. My God is Jesus. Blah blah. And I don't. That is hurting people. I wish they would stop. That is hurting people. I understand your belief is Christ and God and all this and that, but somebody who doesn't believe that, you're not gonna help them. You're gonna keep them out because they're trying to figure this thing out, right? They're trying to figure out recovery and what they need. What they need to know is they need to rely on the group as a higher power, love as something else as their higher power. It don't have to be God. Great that your God, that your higher power is Jesus. Wonderful, great. Keep doing that. That's what works for you. But my higher power, I don't know what it's called, but I know that I turn myself over when I don't understand something. I think about it and I rely on my higher power to work it out or figure it out, or I rely on it to work itself out based on whatever the will is of my higher power. That's easy. That's so much easier to understand because we have to, as an addict, understand that there are going to come times that we're going to hit the wall and we're not going to know what to do or be able to figure things out or be so afraid and scared that we have to just be able to just stop. And that's something that's hard for an addict to do, is just stop. Okay? So I admonish you, if you're a stepper, man, just like be easy with new people and blasting them or not knowing your God or your Jesus. That might be hurting people. It hurt me for a long time. All right, so that's my answer to that question. Um, you're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to rely, because basically it's gonna be the group. Something you're gonna have to rely on something other than yourself to figure stuff out. That's the truth. And sometimes it could be silence. It could be your higher power. I just stop. Don't do anything. That could be your higher power. 'Cause that definitely helped me last night. Just stopping and watching Star Trek. Star Wars. That helped me out a lot. Anyway, so I'm gonna leave it there. Um, Great show, I must say. I kind of enjoyed it. And so with that, I'm gonna take a moment for the still suffering addict. It's very important that I do that for myself every week, to understand that whatever's going on in life, whatever you're suffering through, if you're an addict, there is a way. Um, you could get clean. You could do it one day at a time, and you never have to use again. I actually think that was the corniest shit in the world. I never have to use again one day at a time, but that's basically it. There's no, well, you could do it one day at a time if you're doing a program of recovery. You gotta want recovery. That's what you gotta want. You gotta want recovery more than life itself. Um, and then, you know, you'll work it out. I firmly believe that. If you want some help, reach out to me. Look up NA, go to innerrooms.org. They have meetings online. Um, Look up NA. They have numbers you could call, to get help. Start somewhere. Don't feel hopeless, because there is hope. You are the hope. Just admit your life is fucked up and you want to unfuck it, right? And that's basically for me step one and step two. My life was fucked up and I just wanted to unfuck it. So I started working on unfucking my life, and that's what I keep doing every day is trying to do something that's gonna fuck up my life. That's basically it. Okay, so if you have any questions about living in recovery or just need someone to talk to, drop me an email at cpiercejr@gmail.com. I will get back to you. If you answer something want me to answer on the show, I will answer it on the show. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Be good. I'll see you next week. And hope you guys have a great week. And I will say, always remember to love and respect yourself first, and everything else will take care of itself. Peace and namaste.